men need women more than we need men. Like, I don't think that anyone realizes that, but it's very true because we get a lot from our female friendships. You know, we get a lot from our relationships with our moms or whatever it might be. And men get everything from their beloved. And so I think that shows me that exact point that men need us more than we need them, which is hilarious because women are out there being like, oh my God, I can't find a man. And it's like, well, men are dying to find
I
you.
know it. You know, when I was young, it was sort of during this period of women's lib, and there was a T-shirt. I think Gloria Steinem was the first one who wore it. It said, "Women need a man like a fish needs a bicycle." And I remember thinking, ew, maybe that's true. It's like, but I think though that the false narrative is that women, maybe because women are just more verbal about it. Women are like, I want to, I want to get married, or they tell the lie, like, Taylor Swift was referring to, when I say I don't want it, it's like, but the truth is, men, it seems like in silence, are the ones who really want the
It
relationship.
is in silence. And that's why no one thinks it to be true. But it is in silence. And as someone who's worked with male matchmaking clients, I can tell you they want it.
So you got to be careful when you have an idea, when you have a notion that you already believe in, that you work backwards to prove it. Like I don't think I don't think if it starts with the idea that because you get so much from your female relationships that men must get something, everything from their actual female relationships. No, you need to have a way to actually get an unbiased opinion, right, from men. And usually that happens when you have a large enough sample size. You get enough men together and where men are being honest. You tend to have a bias when men that actually participate in surveys in research like this, they already tend to be in relationships. They already tend to be ready to say the right thing. Or we're looking at outdated sort of data. When you talk to men that have done relationships, have been married, have been divorced, and have lived both sides of the coin, I would guarantee you that you would have a very different sort of outcome. Your data would say something very different than that. Men also find genuine happiness or contentment, because men typically don't run to happiness, but contentment from their male relationships, from the guys' time, from their relaxing time when they can just be themselves. Yes, this is not to discount that women have a certain femininity that you cannot replicate anywhere else in life. But to think that it's something that men need when we also understand that females are the more social of the group. Honestly, if we stop and think objectively, without thinking or without pushing one narrative one way or the other, you could understand just how necessary men are to society. Where if we're looking at things again realistically in terms of infrastructure, how necessary men are for a functioning society. But if you're thinking and understanding relationally, I think you're going to see a large change. If this is the dynamic right now, if we're saying this is holding true, you're going to see a large change when men are saying, I don't see the point. I don't see the point. And part of the reasoning for that is that the availability of sex. When sex was a closed marriage thing, then yes, men were completely desirous, completely necessary for me, because that's the only avenue you're going to go and get it outside of a legalized system where you could buy it. But the way things were, or the way things are now, when like she mentioned, Gloria Steinem, we mentioned feminism. When that wave came, the third wave came, feminism came and made sex just like a free thing. Yeah, you drop the bottom out. Now men can get that, and they're looking and saying, well, okay, check, that box is checked. But I'm still feel like I'm missing something. So men have turned and started looking towards their purpose. Before we continue, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss no new uploads. Still going strong, still doing two a day, still trying to pay that rent. Um, to this point, because I think it's an important one. Once that carnal sort of desire, that physicality is met, a lot of men still feel an emptiness, right? We can separate into two different categories, and we understand there's a large group of males that don't have access to women. They aren't smooth enough, they aren't pretty enough, they haven't accomplished anything. That's always been the subset. And if you always look for that group, they're always going to feel desirous of women, whether or not they're honest about it or not. Right? That community exists because, or that community is defined. I don't want to say the word, but you know what I'm talking about. I don't want YouTube to flag it, to flag this video. But that group is defined by their inaccessibility to women. We're not talking about those. We're talking about the ones that are actually have success with women or are kind of become indifferent to it. They've had it, see that right. It's right now what they're kind of focusing on is peace. A lot of this comes later in their life when they already have the experience with women. They say, okay, I've done that, I've been there, I've done that. What do I want now? What am I most desirous of? Peace. Men are figuring out that it's not just a different type of P word, but I think that was clever. It's not just a different type of P word. It's something that need to cultivate daily. They have to do the work for that. Part of what what women are experiencing when they say that men aren't really out here chasing anymore. There's a group of men in that totality, right? There's a subset of men just say the juice isn't worth the squeeze. It's not that they're not interested. They're just saying it's not worth the chase. They're completely heterosexual. They're just out there, they're enjoying their lives and saying, would be nice, but they're thinking about their lives. They're being emotionally mature and saying, right now, of the things I'm trying to accomplish, do I have the bandwidth? Do I have the time? Do I have the energy to dedicate towards this? And the answer is usually no. Not that they don't think you're pretty, they don't think they're gorgeous, and not that they can't probably envision life with you. They're saying right now, that's not my main priority. When men get their life in order and their purpose is first, and women come somewhere fourth, they're more stoic, they're more understanding of saying, when I'm able to, when I'm ready on my time, on my timeline, I can engage in this. It's not that they don't need women or they're not desirous of women. They just say, not right now. Or that's just not the most important thing. When we look at how we know which group is more social, we get that, right? That's something that's been fundamentally understood. Why would you think that women would not still get something from men? If it was easier or you get most of what you need from women, then there wouldn't be half the complaints we have about men's lack of EQ. Well, I don't go to men for that. I go to my girlfriends for that. And I have a girlfriend that when I want a stoic male that's unfeeling, that's has the feelings of a doorknob, then that's when I'll go to men. But you want men to be your best friend. You want men to be understanding. You want men to be able to gossip with you, but also fight off, the intruder at night. So to think that you don't need men because you get this from women, you get this EQ, this fulfillment with women, that's not enough. There's still something that you want and you require to extract from a man. You want that masculinity, just like we want that femininity. But to put hairs on it and say, who is willing to exist at a lower level of life, a lower level of enjoyment? I think that's men. I think that's men. I think men are willing to exist on a cot on their dining room floor with their TV propped against the wall, just a PS5 hooked up to it, and some some bare bones oodles and noodles, a peanut butter and jelly, some day old Canes or Kentucky Fried Chicken in the fridge, Popeye, excuse me. Men are completely happy to exist like that. They've got a gym membership. They've got their close group of friends. They've got some friends online they could chat with, and they go to work and they go back, go to work and they go back, they go to work and back. They're completely fine with that existence. And most of us upgrade our life after meeting a woman. It's not that the upgrade isn't desirable. Most men have their complete minds blown. They're like, wow, I didn't know you could live like this. This is phenomenal. This is amazing. But it wouldn't happen without a woman. Without a woman, they'd say, no, I'm fine. I'm fine threadbare. I'm fine stacking. I'm fine grinding. That's kind of our baseline level of existence, which we're very comfortable with. A lot of our upgrades, a lot of us being more refined, better, comes from our influence from women or comes from our desire to impress women, or it comes naturally with time and age and experience. You want to compete with other men in other fields who are at the top of their game. Well, you start competing with them, but how do they get there? Maybe an influence of women, maybe an influence of larger society. But I think when we presuppose that somehow men need women more, you set the stage for what doesn't make sense. You set the stage, and for you getting on, you hold this belief, you hold this thought process, and you go on life and thinking that men are out there completely waiting and desirous of you and need you in their life. They don't. Just the same way women could say, I don't need a man, but I want one. Same thing with men. I'm not proposing that we start going with the idea that women need men more than men need. Let's leave that all. That's junk, right? That's junk. That's not going to help. That's not going to move the needle in any sort of way. We understand what it is, but I think, as I've said previously, I think we're always going to be better together. And once we sort of accept that and move with that, we'll be better for it. But if you want to get into this game of saying this one needs this one more, you're going to lose the men. Right? You're going to lose the men because these are the same one that are fine living in a cave. They're fine with that. Right? Let's just call it what it is. We're fine living like that. I think it's a less fulfilling sort of life, but they're fine with that. So listen, if you think I missed something, let me know down in the comments. If you see videos on your screen right now, take a look at those. Let me know what you think about those in those videos. And of course, you listen to my voice after ranting and raving. You haven't joined the train, right? You haven't subscribed. Come on, right? We're just trying to pay the rent. I'll see you guys in the next one.